That's a great question. So you grow up, you don't always know your skills. It's one of the things why I hate about our education system is that almost everyone has a skill. Rarely do we do a good job of identifying it and telling a young person you're actually good at that thing. And instead we try to put them in different
Boxes.
widgets and boxes.
Yep.
So I go to college campuses and there's a lot of error. We're all sinners. We all live in error. The problem with college campuses though is that it calls error truth. So the entire institution is absent and outside of and is in contradiction with God's law and God's perfect commands for our life. So you experience that and you're like, what actually matters? What matters is your relationship with the divine, your relationship with your family, your kids, and maybe a close collection of friends, and your relationship with the truth. And you could decide to lie all the time, and you become a tortured individual. And you know those people. You just turn on television. They're constantly lying, and they just become like disfigured either emotionally, spiritually, or physically. Because when you lie, I believe you're actually committing suicide of the soul. I really believe that. And what that thing is what you call God. And so what we have done is we removed the idea of the biblical God, a God that loves you, and a God that judges you, and a God that tells you how to live, with all these counterfeit pagan gods. And we see what's happened to the West, and the West is committing suicide because of it.
When you're standing in colleges and you're talking to these children, the same way that Peter and Paul would talk against people, and some would agree and some would not agree.
I believe it depends on what God's will is for your life. But here, the answers I don't know. And I don't really care for the answer. All I care about is what I do. And what I do is I fight. And I know what God calls of us. So the specific teachings of Christ is go make disciples of all nations. I'm trying my best to do that. And I'm trying to do it first in this nation, because this nation impacts every other nation on the planet. You cannot impact the world without impacting America, period. That's the way that God has designed the universe in this particular being, that as America goes, the world goes. Why? The first commandment, as I mentioned, is that God says, I'm the Lord your God who delivered you out of the house of bondage of Egypt. God wants us to live free. And you can only live freely in the state of liberty if you have order. And God's law, specifically the Ten Commandments, is the order that I think that we have forgotten in the West. It's what built the West. What's built the most free, prosperous, happy, generous, benevolent society. We're watching the decline because we decided to turn our back on our birthright and our foundation.
History repeats itself. This is King David's kingdom all over again.